At the professional level, all athletes are exceptionally talented and they're all physically gifted. What often separates the winners from the losers is their mental makeup. It's why pros contend that if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And it's why an increasing number of athletes are now looking to psychologists to move past specific problems or improve their overall performance. Our Bernard Goldberg has a look at the new brand of head games today's athletes are playing.
Well, I don't believe this.
It was one of the biggest collapses in the history of golf. The final hole of the 1999 British Open.
Oh dear, this is so sad.
Jean Van de Velde had a 3-stroke lead going into the 18th hole.
No, Jean, please, would somebody kindly go and stop him? Give him a large brandy and mop him down.
All he needed was a double bogey to win. Instead, he triple bogeyed the hole and lost the tournament.
I've seen it, but I'm not sure I believe it, Alex.
They are the two dirtiest words in the world of sports. Mental block. Sprained ankle, broken arm. Athletes know how to deal with stuff like that. But when the problem is mental, when it's only in your head, that's when things can get really scary. How important is mind over matter in sports? You tell me. Was it mental when Mike Vanderjagt, the most accurate kicker in NFL history, missed this field goal by a mile with the season on the line?
And it's no good. He missed it.
How about this, with the World Series hanging in the balance?
It gets through Buckner.
And what about Shaq? So the question, Dr. Freud, is this. Can highly paid, big-time professional athletes really let their mind get in the way of their body?
A lot of people called it a mental block. They called it the funk. That's what everybody called it, because nobody knew what it was.
Mackey Sasser was a catcher for the Mets in the 80s and 90s. A catcher with a strange condition that made it difficult for him to do something as simple as getting the ball out of his glove to throw back to the pitcher. A kind of mental stutter. It got so bad, players would actually steal bases while he was trying to get the ball back to the pitcher.
Butler goes to third base on the throw of Sasser back to Cone.
You got the ball in your hand, and you can't get it out of your hand?
Could not get it out of my hands, like the brain was not telling the hand, let the ball go.
What are you thinking at that point?
Just let it go. Finding a way to let it go.
Sasser says his mental quirk came after a collision jolted him at home plate. And for some reason, after that, his mind took over and the hesitation kicked in. But here's where it gets tricky. In practice, with no fans at the ballpark and no one watching on TV, the problem disappeared completely. Don't take this the wrong way. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
It is crazy. It's what I worked my butt off to do, in my life, and it kind of just failed me. And I can't figure out why.
And Sasser wasn't alone. Remember Steve Sax, the Dodger second baseman? In 1982, he was Rookie of the Year. In '83, he couldn't find first base with a GPS.
I was on the cusp of losing my career at 23 years old for something that is completely, ridiculously unexplainable at the time to me.
Sax says it all began with one mistake, a bad throw to home plate that allowed a run to score. That's when he broke the cardinal rule. He started thinking. Yes, thinking, instead of just playing.
Before the ball's even hit, I'm praying that they don't hit it to me.
Really?
Because I have no idea where it's going. And it's the loneliest, most horrible feeling that you can imagine, in front of 50,000 people, and everybody knows what your problem is.
Where were you throwing the ball?
Section J, popcorn stands, innocent little kids. I probably winged a few of them.
And the more you thought about it?
The worse it got.
In those days, Steve, was there a team psychologist?
No. Go get them. That was psychology. Yeah. Go get them.
So what's an athlete to do if he's got some mind over matter problem that's driving him nuts? Excuse the expression. In the old days, he may have just struggled with it. But now we live in the age of Dr. Phil, and that could mean only one thing. Time to make an appointment with the head coach. And I mean the head coach.
I coach people on using their mind and their emotions to be able to get their body to do the things they want them to do.
Dr. Bob Rotella is the granddaddy of sports psychologists. And while he's worked with top athletes in all sports, he spends most of his time here on the equivalent of a mental minefield, helping dozens of the world's top professional golfers adjust their game, their mental game. If you don't have confidence in yourself, a lot of confidence, Rotella says, you're dead. Why is it so important that the person not have doubts and be confident?
It short circuits our system, and all of a sudden the computer inside of us doesn't work very efficiently. All of a sudden we get tension in our body and the mind is confused, and when the mind gets confused, the body gets confused.
Which is why you'll see Rotella at a lot of the major events, constantly reinforcing his message to players before and after their rounds. What do you try to tell them, generally speaking? What do you tell them?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, you got to believe in yourself a lot out here, and you got to stay in the present moment. I mean, it's such a game of mistakes that it tries to break your heart all the time.
Rotella says our self-image actually dictates how good we can be. Think you can make the putt, and you're much more likely to really do it. And if you should somehow miss anyway.
You got to have instant amnesia. You know, the ability to forget is way more important than the ability to remember.
There was a lot of sleepless nights out there on the tour.
Do you mean that literally? Like you'd stay up at night just worrying about this?
Worried about it, absolutely.
What Billy Mayfair, a longtime pro on the tour, was losing sleep over was his putting. He was missing too many easy shots.
I can't get anything to work. I'm scared to death if I'm going to even maybe whiff the putt. And it's not my physical putting stroke that's what's causing me these problems. It's between the ears.
It was completely mental.
Completely mental, yeah.
That's when he decided to book some time with Dr. Bob.
And the worst part about it was, what if I miss this putt in front of all these people that are watching me and embarrass myself? You know, that's stuff that goes through your head.
And what did he tell you about that?
Fear on the golf course comes from you worrying about what other people think.
So what, he told you don't worry about what they think?
Don't worry about what they think. Who cares? And we really started getting into a routine to fool my mind in a way so it doesn't know if it's on the putting green, on the practice green, or on the last hole of a tournament to win.
Mayfair credits Rotella with helping save his career, and today he's one of the best putters on the tour. What percentage of golfers have people like you coaching them?
Oh, I would say in the sport of golf, I'd say 90%.
And what do you say to the people watching who are going to say, come on, he's telling athletes the obvious. I mean, you think positive. Oh, duh. You know, no, I think I'll think negative today.
I guess my attitude is I'm not trying to change the whole world. I'm just trying to change the world of the people I work with. And we feel it's an advantage. And people have talked about for years, it's an edge to have a great attitude.
But not everyone buys into the power of positive thinking stuff.
I thought brilliantly today and shot the worst score possible. So what's that tell you?
Mark Calcavecchia is one of the top players on the tour. And in case you haven't guessed, he's not much of a fan of sports psychology.
It seems like a lot of work and a lot of reading and a lot of effort for things that I already know that's inside my brain. But some people can't bend down to tee it up here in the first tee without their sports psychologist talking to them for half an hour before they play.
Somehow, the whole idea doesn't seem to make sense to you.
No, none, zero. I don't get it. Maybe that's my problem.
And what about one of Dr. Rotella's 10 commandments, the ones he writes about in his best-selling golf books? To love your wedge and love your putter.
I missed every putt I looked at because I hate my putter. I hate my wedge, too.
So, if you're a big-time athlete but don't necessarily want to go to a shrink, where do you go if you still want some help?
That's right. Really learning at the unconscious level.
Where else? To a sports hypnotist.
Hypnosis enables me to get to the subconscious realm where the current problem exists, where the information or the idea or belief that's directing your performance negatively currently resides.
Pete Siegel says he's been able to tap into the subconscious minds of dozens of pro athletes, like Major League infielder Damian Easley.
I was lost. I've literally forgotten how to hit. And I had to bring it all back into focus.
Mentally repeating the word warrior, which then fuels the degree of success impact at the plate.
It helped me to get all the distractions out of my head and focus on one thing at a time.
Warrior, warrior. That's right. Everybody already knows the answer to their question, why they're not doing what they want to do and what they can do to rectify it. But it's not something that you're consciously aware of. Subconsciously, you are aware of it.
If that's true, Steve Sax deep down knew what he was doing wrong. And after 4 months and way too many errors, he made a conscious decision to stop thinking and just reflexively throw the ball to first. It worked. Mackey Sasser, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. The experts have this little technique that if you're having a problem with something, you visualize something pleasant.
Right. Visualize something that makes you happy. Visualize girls. Visualize whatever to get your mind off of throwing. Visualize it.
Did you try that?
Oh, I tried everything. Every happy thought I could think of.
And?
No success. The happy thoughts were good, but no success for throwing the ball back to the pitcher.
And no happy ending either. The mental block finally forced him out of the game. The little hesitation was too much of a distraction, especially for the pitchers who were losing their rhythm because of Sasser's mental stutter.
Stay not good.
So, what should we make of all of this? Could Yogi have been right that 90% of hitting is half mental? And if you think too much, does that mean you ought to have your head examined?
In your mind, I want you to place that image of Bernie's success. He feels relaxed. He's at ease. He expects the ball to go in.
Come on. Does this stuff really work? Can the power of positive thinking, can my subconscious mind, whatever that is, really make a difference? I guess so.
Okay, be honest with me. How many takes? Oh, get out of here.
One take.
Get out.
One take. I will swear on a stack of Bibles. I will have a congressional investigation, whatever you want. One take.
And you attribute that to?
You know, I can't attribute that totally to the hypnotism, but seriously now, it has an effect. You start to think differently. You start to have a certain confidence, really, that you didn't otherwise have.
Serious note. Why do some guys develop mental blocks and others don't? Are some predisposed because they have a more fragile psyche or more fragile ego?
Yeah, I think yes. I think the answer is yes to that. And the good news is that it can be overcome. It can be overcome if you start to believe in yourself, if you start to learn how to have confidence in yourself. Even those people with preconceived or predisposed to that kind of thing can overcome it.
I can accept the psychologist. Do you buy the hypnotist?
There are a lot of hypnotists out there in all sorts of psychological fields, and if it works for you, it works.
Gotcha. By the way, if I find an outtake,
you won't.
We're going to run it.
You won't.
All right, Bernie.